Today on the show, I'm going to show you how to make an additional $5,000 per month in your business and how you can get it done in less than 4 hours of work. Welcome to Your Consulting Business Podcast. My name is Russell Pearson and this is episode 121. Today I'm going to show you not only the way that you actually put this extra $5,000 into the bank every single month, but how I learned it and how I used it to transition from my service business to my consulting business. And I'm going to show you specifically the steps that you can take to put it into your business too. So what do you need to actually get started? Well, number one, you have to have outcome expertise, which is you have expertise in getting someone a result. If you have expertise in helping them go from here to there, then this is a strategy that you can use. But you also need to be open to consulting. If you're not open to consulting, this is probably not the strategy for you. But if you are open to consulting, either because you've got expertise and you are interested in taking your service to maybe a consulting space, or you've been consulting all along, then you're going to be able to use this strategy in your business. Now, back in 2005, that's 20 years ago, this year, I started a little company called Crimson Fox. And the idea behind Crimson Fox is it would be a service company that would create brand marketing and design. And that is because that's the sort of work that I'd been doing for the 10 years before that. Flash forward, we are no longer a marketing and design company. We are a consulting company that actually helps consultants build their consulting practices. But how did we get there? How did I make that transition? Well, let's go back to 2005. I was working in that space for a long time doing the traditional service thing, which is to meet a client, take a brief, confirm that I understood the brief, give a price, and then if there was a go-ahead, I would complete the brief or complete the project. And that's basically because I still had my employee mindset on, which I was actually taking briefs and completing jobs. But along the way, that changed. One day, a client came in to talk to me and they wanted a big project done around a website and marketing. And I was looking at their marketing and it seemed to be working. I looked at their website and by the numbers, it was doing very, very well. And so I said, why do you want to make this change? And they weren't expecting that. They weren't expecting me to question it because ideally I was there to take a brief and then do the job. But it didn't seem right to actually do that sort of work unless it made sense or created value for that client. And so they had a little conversation with me, and at the end of it, they realized that they weren't sure why they were doing it. They wanted to do something, and they had outcomes they wanted to achieve, but they didn't understand how the change in the marketing and the change in the website was specifically going to get them there. I'd noticed that I'd been helping and really consulting to people before this just as part of my service delivery, and this time I decided to do something different. I asked them if they would like to do a session, a little workshop on getting the plan together as to what they should be doing and how it was going to get them to the outcome that they wanted. And they loved the idea and they said how much, and at the time I said $1,000 because I didn't know any different. And we went ahead and we did a little workshop and it took 3 hours, I think it was at the time. And they were really happy with the result because not only did it help them identify what were the steps they needed to take, but it also meant that they weren't going to do some of the things that they were planning on doing, which ideally took money out of my pocket. But on the flip side, they did a lot more in a different area, which added money to my pocket. All right, so it balanced itself out. I was there to help them make some decisions. Flash forward, the next time someone wants a website, I ask them the same question. Why are they wanting to do it? And if they had a solid reason, cool, let's do the job. But when they didn't, I would ask them if they wanted to do a planning session and strategically look at how they wanted to approach their marketing and how they wanted to approach their digital marketing. So now I started putting this into every engagement that I was making and it started adding more money. Now, the more of these strategic workshops that I did, the more I understood how to do them and do them effectively to get a better result, and I started putting my prices up. And basically I kept putting them up until I hit about $5,000, and that was a really nice, comfortable spot. And one of the things that I realized then is that I probably should be offering this to everybody. Do they want to do some strategic work on the reason why they wanted to do a certain thing and how to put that plan into place? I was able to do all that because I had expertise. I actually had worked on so many different projects and with so many different business models. I was able to work out what was going to be effective based off their specific situation. And so creating the plan became incredibly valuable for them. And for some people, the plan itself is actually more valuable than the actual delivery of it, because understanding how strategically to move forward rather than just moving forward can actually get you much faster to the goals that you're wanting to achieve. And so here's where things changed for me. I realized that in that strategic workshop, it wasn't my job to win my own work. It wasn't the point to actually get the delivery. In fact, when I realized that I wasn't there to get the delivery, I actually did even better strategic plans, and two things emerged from that. Number one, I sometimes would get much bigger projects, and other times I wouldn't get the project at all. Sometimes it was better that someone else did the project. As long as I put myself on their side of the table and I wasn't trying to influence the decision, trying to create a bias for my business and my team, then I would create a great strategic plan. But if ever I felt like I was maybe going to miss out on a project that I really wanted, it was undermine the project. And so I just had to make myself unbiased in the conversation. But it was fine because I was being paid really good money. In fact, on average, I was running a strategic workshop every single month. And that was before I even put the foot down. I was just asking the question at the start of the project, would you like to create a strategic plan? And so a lot of people said yes, a lot of people said no. But once I really understood the value of it, I decided to actually make it the first step into my business. And that's where I really started to become a consulting business, is where I said, well, strategy first. We don't do the implementation without strategy. And so what that enabled me to do is not jump into bed with a client until I understood how this client operated. So ideally, the strategy session was an audition for the client to see if I wanted to work with them long term. If I was in that planning session or I helped them create the plan and then they asked me to implement the plan, I would say whether I was available or not, depending on whether that's someone I wanted to work with. And so it created this really nice audition process where I might do 5 or 6 strategy plans before I would actually go and do an implementation for someone. Sometimes it was because it didn't make sense for me to be doing it, but the majority of times it's because that wasn't an ideal project for me to do. I didn't like the terms, I didn't like the structure. Sometimes the team was a little crazy or unreasonable to work with. And so I wanted to make sure that I put the best people with the right team. So sometimes I would have to matchmake with other colleagues in the industry, which also meant that I was actually getting referrals back because I was giving work out. And so that enabled me to make that transition into the consulting space when I stopped seeing delivery as the most valuable thing that I was doing and I started identifying that strategy was. So I did another really good thing too. Imagine that we've got this project here and it has its parts, right? So at the end of a project, we might do a review. Obviously, we've got the implementation. We'll just call that implementation. That's the bulk of the thing that we're doing. Maybe there is a planning and scoping piece that we would do here. And then there's a strategy that sits above it that identifies why we're doing it in the first place. Now, the majority of people that I speak to in the consulting space are looking to sell this project. Let's say it was an $80,000 project. They're looking to sell it all as one hit. Now, in doing that, number one, it's harder to get a yes because often you need to go through procurement. It's not just a business case that they can make to the business. And obviously, it's a lot more money. But what I found is that by putting maybe just a small amount, say $5,000 up front to do the strategy, that enabled me to say and to have an easy yes with no commitment to the rest of the work. Now, a lot of people have a real fear that they don't get a commitment to the rest of the work. But what's great about this position is it helps you get through procurement so much easier, which means that you are an option for them to buy from. You're already on the books. Now, you're also the incumbent. You're also in there, in the room, helping them make a decision. So if you don't get this, it's usually because you've decided that you didn't want it. So you're the one who's going to guide them on the best possible path to an outcome. So not only are you going to get the rest of the $80,000, but you might be able to open the project up even more and see what else is available. So the way to do this is by asking why. Why is it that we're planning on doing this entire project? And ideally getting into a situation where people are asking for your advice, your mentoring, your guidance on creating the plan to get this done. Now, the people this is going to help the most are those who are in a contractor role or are providing a service. And the reason why those two roles are ideal is because traditionally the service providers have been asked to do something by their client, and the contractor has been asked to fulfill a contract by the client, which means that they've been ideally told what needs to be done. And the way to step out of that and add an additional $5,000 into your pocket is to ask why. For what purpose are we doing this activity? And so it enables you to step into the strategic space rather than just be in the delivery space. Now, I want to show you something on the board so you can understand this concept. Now, a large part of taking advantage of this strategy is mindset. Ideally, you need to move out of employee mindset like I had once upon a time. Because an employee, is a person who gets paid by the hour, right? So they get paid hourly. And if you are stuck in hourly rates and instead of seeing the value of outcome, and if you're charging on hourly rates, which defines where your value sits, then you are saying I am worth this much per hour. It doesn't give you a lot of leverage. And the majority of people who are stuck in this position will be asking the client what they want them to do. And so they're being told, they're being directed, which means that they are, in essence, an employee. Whether you're a contractor or an actual employee, if you're being directed on what needs to be done, yeah? So this is about tasks. If you're doing tasks, then you're basically being seen as an employee, which means you are not going to be asked to do higher value things because you've basically positioned yourself there by your actions and the way you actually price. Now, there's a space above that, which is the service deliverer. And service gets paid, usually in the thousands, but they get paid on delivery, right? So they get paid on delivery. And while this person gets told specifically what to do, this person gets told what I want. So they get told what. What I'm after is a website. What I'm after is SEO. It could be a plumbing job. It could be like an accounting thing. It could be like anything. But as soon as the client is telling you what they want and you're not questioning that, you're a service deliverer. And that's absolutely fine. You can 100% run a really successful business doing service delivery. But this channel is all about consulting and helping to get a consulting practice that enables you to get the flexibility and freedom to work with who you want, wherever you want in the world. And the only way you can do that is through selection and through choice. So if you want to be the advisor, because that's what it needs to be as far as a position, the advisor for the client, then you get paid, on outcomes and value, which means that you need to charge on value. These people charge on delivery of projects. So project delivery, these people get charged hourly. And so if you're still charging hourly, people are seeing you as an employee. If you're being charged on the delivery of outcomes, you're being seen as a service provider. And if you're charging on value, then we're starting to get to a place of advising. The challenge on a lot of these things is how the communication and how the relationship goes between you and a client. An advisor can't be told what to do because they're no longer the advisor then, they're the service provider. If someone's telling them how to do it, they're on task level and they're an employee. So that's what, it's how, how tasks. Up here is why. Why are we doing this project? Now, that doesn't mean that you need to have a big ego and you go, hey, you can't tell me what to do. It means that you need to position yourself in a place where that never happens. So no one has to tell you why because you're ahead of the conversation. You're already asking the questions, which means you are helping them identify why. You're facilitating, and that's what that workshop really is about. It's facilitating their plan, path, and the ability for them to make a decision. So you're facilitating that. You're not telling them specifically what they need to do. You are guiding them, giving them options, and helping them make decisions. So as soon as you notice that someone is telling you either what's not working or what needs to be done, you've slipped down from advisor to service provider. And the way to move back up there is to bring it back to the why, bring it back to the strategic reason for doing what you're doing. And the little gold piece, if you actually got to this point in the video, is to ask great questions. If you're asking great questions, it means you're in the driver's seat and you are facilitating the path and the way forward. If the questions that you're asking about what do you want, what specifically do you want me to do, or if the questions are how would you like me to do that, then you're in these other categories. Now, there are two types of people who tend to have a challenge with this strategy. And number one is the service provider who's never worked in a corporate organization before. Because those who've worked in corporate organizations where they've actually spent big money on big budget programs understand that for the strategic part of the program, $5,000 is nothing. In fact, when I work with those sort of people, they're usually charging $25,000 to $40,000. And as soon as I say just detach it from the project, the lights come on, they realize that they have much more opportunity to get money fast. It creates cash flow. But those who have come from a service delivery background, have maybe moved into a space where they've got now expertise but never actually worked with those big budgets, they don't value or don't realize the value in doing that strategic work. And the majority of those people are actually giving it away for free. So going from free to $5,000 can be a massive challenge for people. But if you're used to spending, $40,000, $80,000 on these big corporate budgets, then you charging $40,000 is actually a step down. Interestingly, when I first started my business, I realized that I was being charged out as an employee at $120 an hour. And so when I started my business, I thought, well, I'll start at $60 an hour because I'm just working on my own, which was incredibly wrong because I was still doing the same level or quality of output. And so there's this weird thing that happens when you step away from an organization or step into your own business. You feel like because you don't have the experience on running your business, that maybe your delivery isn't as good as it should be. But the reality is completely untrue. In fact, it's likely to be the other way around. Because you're the person who's in control, because you're managing the project and the business and doing the work, it means that you're going to have a real attention to detail and your output is actually going to be far higher. So if you are thinking of making the transition, for anybody who's currently as an employee, and I know that's not the majority of people watching this, but if you are, when you do make that transition, make sure you're not charging less than you're being charged out at whatever organization it was at. So those people who've come from service and haven't come from big corporate do tend to have that issue. The other people see the delivery as the work. And because they see the delivery as their work, they don't want to lose the work. And that's absolutely fine, but you are wanting to stay as a service deliverer, which means that there are plenty of people who need to deliver services and only certain people who are willing to step outside of that and actually look at the reasons why a project is being done and ideally look at disagreeing with the reasons, not in a way that actually puts the client offside, but in a way that saves the client money because there's a better alternative or there's a different way to approach a problem, then it's that person who's going to move into the consulting space. If you are already a consultant, decouple the delivery from the strategy and it'll enable you to get much more of that strategy opportunity and it'll enable you to audition the client along the way. And so there's absolutely no reason to just do one of these a month. You could do one of them a week, you could do one of them a day if you wanted to, and you can have a wildly successful business just doing strategic work if that's what you want. I'm just telling you about the easy way to do this and show you how I did it so that you know that you can do it too. Sometimes people have a little bit of imposter syndrome in moving from service provider to advisor and consultant. But if you've got deep expertise, if you do understand how to get people a result, if you've seen things enough times that you understand that there are some moving parts, then you are right in the right position to get started. And so do it with one client. Just ask them if they've got the specific reason for doing this project. And if they don't, offer them the opportunity to do a strategic workshop to identify the best way forward. All you're there to do is help them with their options and help them make a decision. You'll find that it's an incredibly valuable and fun way to actually do business. And at the same time, you're going to add a lot to your bottom line. Now, if you're not feeling 100% confident, you might not start with charging $5,000, but charge something. Don't give advice, don't give strategy away for free. It's an incredibly valuable part of your business. But get started and charge something and let me know how you go. So this is just one strategy of a ton of ways that you can add thousands of dollars to your consulting business every single month. If you're not already a subscriber, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when the next episode becomes available. So go back and have a look at all the past episodes because you're going to find all sorts of value there that you can implement directly into your consulting business. And if this is the first time you've come across this channel, make sure to go to russellpearsonprograms.com because we've got a resource there to help you on your consulting journey absolutely free. If you've got any questions about the details, put them in the chat. I'm always happy to answer any detailed questions about specifically how you do it or maybe what questions you can ask. My name is Russell Pearson. This is the Your Consulting Business Podcast, episode 121. Until next time, stay passionate and I'll catch you on the next one.